Welcome to episode 7 of the AVA Movement podcast, a show about all things Angels Airwaves, To the Stars, and Tom DeLonge. My name is Adam Barnard, and today I'm joined again by Joe Thueson, who was previously on the podcast to discuss AVA's fall 2019 North America tour. He's a super fan of all things Tom DeLonge, and he also runs the unofficial To the Stars Facebook group, which just hit 10,000 members a few weeks ago, I believe. So, Joe, thanks for coming back. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me back. Good to be back, and yeah, we're getting a lot of traction on the group, and so it's fun to see everyone interacting there, and I'm excited to chat about the new video.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, congrats on 10,000 members. That's a milestone to achieve. So just to clarify, the To the Stars banner for you is kind of all things Angels and Airwaves, To the Stars Academy, anything that's in the web of Tom DeLonge, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically if you can find it on the To the Stars page, that's a discussion point for us. That encompasses all branches. A lot of people have a hard time separating the Academy as a branch of the overall To the Stars umbrella. So, it's the Academy, all that stuff that's going on, as well as Angels and Airwaves and all the merch and books and any film unidentified. All that good stuff. If basically what I try to tell people when they're on there, what is this page about? Like, if you can find it on To the Stars webpage, it's good discussion there.
So for all you guys who are listening, if you're interested in this, just go to Facebook and I think type in To the Stars with the ellipses, right, the 3 dots after, and then it'll come up under Facebook groups. So not a page like the To the Stars official Facebook page, but the Facebook group.
Yep, exactly.
So before we get into the main discussion, which again is the All That's Left Is Love music video, which just came out pretty recently, we actually have a little bit of a band update from the live stream before the video premiere. So for I think 30 minutes before the video came out, Tom and the Angels and Airwaves official YouTube channel chatted with people in the video premiere chat, and they shared some information about the new album and just where the band is at right now, most notably that there's going to be 12 songs on the new album. They've worked on final arrangements now. They're getting into final tracking, and they've locked down 12 songs, but they also clarified that there's going to be, quote, lots more stuff that comes with it. I'm not sure if that means there's going to be bonus songs, acoustic songs, remixes, or, kind of like the self-titled or untitled Blink record, had some specific tracks for different regional releases or bonus tracks that weren't on the main album. But, as of now, we just know for sure there's going to be 12 songs on the record. The new album also has a title. They didn't hint at it, didn't tell us what it is, but they've locked down a title, and that they're also finalizing artwork for the new album. So those were the 3 big updates that came with the live chat.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's good to hear. I think we've all kind of been waiting to see what this is more gonna feel like as an album or a piece of art, as Tom always describes it. We don't know what else is coming along with it. He's mentioned before he's kind of gone back and forth on if certain songs are singles or on the album, not on the album. So maybe that kind of to what you were saying earlier about bonus tracks or some additional stuff that's coming along with it. I wonder if some of these songs that we've already heard are kind of part of that bonus material more so than the album itself, which would be awesome because that would mean more songs, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he's said recently that the COVID quarantine situation has actually weirdly enough helped the recording process, because he has added several new songs, some of which he says are his favorite that he's written for this record, only because they're not touring in the spring or because the record wasn't going to come out in the summer. So basically they got extra time to make the record everything they wanted it to be, and they recorded a ton of extra songs for it and wrote extra material. Yeah, you never know what's going to make the cut or what's not going to. I think the one through line with fans that I've heard is if we've waited this long and, we've waited several years while he's worked on this, and we're going to have to wait even longer because of the coronavirus situation, because they can't, tour the record, so they're not going to put it out yet. We want it to be not just 10 songs like The Dreamwalker.
Right.
We're looking forward to it being kind of, more of a journey, maybe more like the Blink's self-titled record. As for me, as long as the album is cohesive and has a rhythm to it, whether it's 10 songs or 20 songs, I don't really care as long as it has some form of like internal consistency. But yeah, fans have waited a while, so I would really dig, 12 songs plus some bonus songs, maybe like 14 or 15 songs in total.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's tough to wait, but he's kind of given us songs, at least a couple singles here and there, not official singles, and then also the tour to kind of help us get our AVA fix.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was a lot of touring, and that was like, I guess you could call it all promo touring, because they were just touring maybe a single or two at the time. Usually, a tour of that scope comes after the record, so I'm really excited to see, we have to wait more, and obviously there's just so much at play globally that's much bigger than the band at the moment. But
Right.
I think we're going to need that optimistic mega AVA tour once this is all over. So let's go ahead and jump into the music video then.
The world is different now. We feel more of us. This place is such a mess. But we always pass the test. When you feel like looking up. When the days are getting tough. We're getting us that drug. Our little bits enough. And all that's left is love.
So the music video for All That's Left Is Love is the third music video that has come out with all this new material. Each of the new 3 singles that we've had has had a music video come with it, a couple, weeks or months after the song's release. I'll just go ahead and say it off the bat. I really, really enjoyed this one. I was kind of surprised. I didn't know what the creative restrictions were going to be like because it was shot in quarantine. It was shot with Tom and the cinematographer and the director. And I kind of figured it was going to be something like this, but just, kind of like approaching the video with an open mind, I was really surprised at how well they accomplished this concept and how much like heart and soul this video has.
Yeah, no, I agree. They started, I don't know if you remember, kind of that teaser soundbite was almost that little breakdown kind of towards the end of the song.
Yeah.
That kind of left a lot for the imagination because you're like, okay, is this a slow song or is this like, it kind of felt like it was building up. So like, what exactly is this? So it was kind of an interesting way to tease it, and I think it was probably strategic in a sense. It kind of has the AVA sound that we all love, but also touches on current topics. Some of the verses are more of a love story feel, but then it kind of, other verses are more of a worldly kind of, we can get through this kind of feel. So you can see the mix of where it was going to where it ended up within the lyrics themselves. So I'm guessing they were kind of written maybe in different times, but came together to be an awesome song. So,
well, Tom said he did the music first. Like, he's always the guy who nails down the music first, and then the lyrics come later. What I'm surprised by, what I think really works in favor of this song and music video combo, is the fact that it feels like it was all from the same perspective in a sense. Like sometimes you'll make a song and produce a song and then a music video director comes in and it's like, I have an idea for this music video that can fit the song. And it's like clearly a melding of two different minds or perspectives. But in terms of the All That's Left Is Love music video, building off the song, Tom is credited as a co-director with a guy named Caleb Mallory, who's like a San Diego filmmaker. And Caleb also did all the visualizers for the Rebel Girl and Kiss and Tell audio videos, all the people behind those like semi-transparent glass or whatever. Yeah. And then he also did all the new band photos like for back in April, like way before Rebel Girl came out. So I'm guessing Tom liked his work and then brought him in for this video. But yeah, I mean, Tom, I think it's just, this song is probably one of the more interesting songs because the music, the lyrics, and then the music video all feel like it was just coming like directly from Tom, and like he had something to say, and we all know Tom as like just such an optimistic person who's kind of always preached the message of like, make the reality you want to see. And I think that's kind of what this music video is about. It's like we're all, for the most part, I mean, different countries are handling the virus in different ways, but it's like all of us are kind of isolated and scared and unsure of how to process all this crap that's going on and what it means for relationships or our career or our place in the world. And this song kind of boils down to a very elemental, optimistic message, which then is like 100% reflected in the music video. And the music video is like very raw and personal. It's mostly just Tom in it. And it's kind of like a really cool peek inside his head, I think, as to how he's processing things, bestowed upon the art, that perspective just baked into the art. And then the music video is like a visualizer of that, which it's just very, very synergistic, the way everything has worked with this particular, single or non-single release, whatever we want to describe it as.
Yeah. I think I read somewhere where he had mentioned, when you're watching all this stuff on TV and all the negativity, you can't help but also see some of the great things about humanity that come out of it, and how people come together. And we've all seen like the videos of people on their balconies in Italy, like playing their instruments together, because they can't get together. But that, like, even in a quarantine, like, art still thrives. It finds a way to exist, and that kind of is just so closely tied to Angels and Airwaves in general, as kind of like finding the hope, finding the light in things when it's hard to find. So I think it just paired so nicely with their message in general. And that's interesting you mentioned the director, because I couldn't help but notice in the music video itself, like all the aesthetics and kind of the color palette is very similar to Rebel Girl, and also just the most recent Angels and Airwaves art. I guess the logo right now kind of has those like peach shades, and kind of reminds me, I know you're a movie guy, but the Endless Summer kind of 1966 surf documentary. If you look at the art for that film, it's very much the peaches and pinks and kind of yellows, and it just really reminds me of what aesthetic they're kind of going for right now. So I don't know if that's just something I saw, or if that's intentional or not, but that's interesting that you said that, because I definitely see that vibe throughout the whole thing, throughout the video so far, because everything is art, whether it's the concert or the live performances or the videos or even the cover art is very in tune with each other. So I've kind of seen that as a potential theme for this next album, maybe.
Sure, and that's a really astute observation, because I think Tom in general is a very specific and selective artist. Like, some artists will make the music and they focus on the music and they let people handle the rest. They let the filmmakers or the designers or whatever, do their own take on the material, and they just maybe have a say in the final approval. In my opinion, in my experience, just talking to people who have worked with him, that's not who Tom is. Like, Tom is all about the multi-platformal ambitions of the band, and having film and music and visuals and novels and books and documentaries and literally every art form kind of synergize around a certain theme or tone. We've seen it with Love. We saw it quite a bit with Dreamwalker and Poet Anderson, a bit of Secret Machines with some of the
Chasing
music
Shadows.
And other property. Yeah, Chasing Shadows there. And I think we're going to really see it with this release, but instead of this release revolving around a piece of intellectual property like the Poet Anderson or Secret Machines franchise, this album really feels like a homecoming for Tom, in a weird way. Like, without getting into specifics, he's been through a lot personally, and I think he's gone through a different kind of rebirth, very similar but different to what he did after the breakup with Blink. And it's like, this record, I'm just seeing him trying to like get back to the most core essence of himself. And, he's talked about that too. He's said in some of the recent interviews, like, I'm just finally so comfortable in my own skin, and
Right.
I'm ready to just like be myself in a way that maybe I haven't in the past or haven't always been in the past. And, music is the priority again. So if we're getting that kind of like San Diego beach vibe from this new record and all the designs, I mean, that makes sense. For the last few years, he's just been driving his motorcycle up and down the coast of
Right.
Southern California. So like, where does that leave an artist's head? It's like this album, and one of the reasons I like these 3 songs so much is because it's like, it feels like it's just becoming pure Tom. It's like he's total control over everything. He has a big record label supporting him, but not controlling the creative decisions. And so, yeah, I just see this as kind of like a return to form. And, after 7 years away from music as a priority in terms of releasing or touring and whatever, it's like, yeah, he's going to come back, and he's going to come back big, and he's going to put a creative stamp on this new full-length album.
Yeah, and I think that even translates into the video, where first part of it, he's kind of, toying around on his acoustic and kind of trying to find the right words, and maybe seems a little lost. And then, by the time we get to the end of the video, the infamous dance scenes, he's very much himself. He's very much looking free, and like, I don't care what people think. I'm going to do what makes me happy, and I'm going to be myself. And it kind of ends back on that acoustic just for a second. I don't know if that's partially showing his journey through all of this.
Right.
But also, societies, as we go through this, like, it's going to be hard at first, and we're not sure how we're going to handle this. It reiterates through the lyrics over and over again that we're going to figure it out, or, we're going to get through this. And it's kind of at the end, that kind of happiness where maybe we're learning more about ourselves through this whole thing than we ever thought we could. And although it was not the best situation to have to do that, we're kind of better people at the end of all this.
Yeah, I love the shot of all 4 band guys at the end, because this is such a Tom-centric video, bringing it back around at the end to say, like, we are a full band now. I mean, if you look on the official pages, the official Angels and Airwaves pages, it used to just list Tom and Alon as band members, and now it lists David and Matt Rubano as well. So I think we're going to see the return of the full band. But this video is really interesting because it was so Tom-centric. As someone who is a film guy, like, if someone comes to me and says, like, oh, I'm going to do a music video, but like for the last half, I'm just going to like dance around my own house and by the coastline, I would be like, okay, where's the narrative? Where's the story? Where are like the visual plans and payoffs? Like, are we sure this is going to land? And it's like, part of the reason I like this video so much is because somehow it does land. Like there is a version of this video, if maybe it was less candid or less honest, that could just feel like there's someone's just throwing together a music video to put something out.
Yeah.
It could feel very arbitrary. It could feel very kind of trite. It could just come across as awkward or like displaying delusions of grandeur. But this one, it worked. Like I shouldn't have felt as emotionally invested in all these shots and in Tom's, barbecue dad dancing, which I love. It's cool. It's fun. I mean, it's endearing, and it's fully him. But yeah, I think when this is a great just takeaway about art in general. But when someone is unapologetically themselves, and when someone is 100% honest and in making something creative for the right reasons, I truly believe a soul will always shine through. Even if it's not polished, even if it doesn't have the perfect story or the biggest budget. And, this video is a very grassroots video. Like there's some visual effects in there to enhance the sky and stuff, but it's mostly just a guy and a camera.
Yeah.
And, I just think this is kind of like a great lesson, and it reaffirmed to me why I love art and creative industry so much, is because when someone is truly honest, it will always enhance and elevate the art that they're creating.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of all of us too with this quarantine. It's like we're in our houses, we're stuck, right, to some extent, and like
Yeah.
You can kind of choose to mope around about it, or you can choose to get to know yourself and have fun in your own situation and be goofy about it in your own house. And I think that's kind of,
Dance on the coffee table, right?
yeah, exactly. Like we all get to that point where just we need to get back to some sort of expression, and sometimes that's the greatest expression is going through something like that. And I don't know if you thought, I almost kind of got the vibe at the end there when they show all the members, like, do you think that's going to roll into another video? Like, it almost felt like that, right? Like, it's kind of, I could see the next video kind of playing off of this one, to where now they're all together, and then perhaps the next song or single that comes out is kind of tied into the end of this one. I don't know. It almost felt that way. They're kind of looking and almost, tying it back to a movie. It's like if you know a sequel's coming, it almost felt like that. It's
a
like
post-credit scene like the Marvel movies have.
Right. It's almost like, all right, there's more to this, I felt like, but I guess we'll see. I don't know if you got the same vibe.
I actually didn't, but it's a distinct possibility. Yeah. I mean, it's the end. I guess like the end feels like it might be there just to at least give recognition to the other band members. Be like, hey, look, this is a Tom DeLonge video because we kind of had creative restrictions and this is what he wanted to do. But hey, don't forget, like, it's not just one guy or whatever. It's not just one guy dancing around in his own house. That was the impression I got from it.
Yeah.
It could be. I would love to see them do it. When Fall Out Boy did a big comeback record, I think like 2012, 2013, I think it was called Save Rock and Roll. They did like a music video for every song, and they all tied together. It was kind of like a 10-part movie, like 10 short films lined up around a theme and a concept. I would love Angels and Airwaves to do that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Right, because what Tom always does is, he likes attaching movies and books and all this other stuff, which I like, but it's like, I think the most direct multi-platformal attachment you can make to an album is to have every song have a narrative visualizer for all intents and purposes, have a music video or a story, or even if it's not like a movie narrative, just have the 10 videos revolve around some kind of similar theme or aesthetic or whatever. That's very hard to pull off because music videos can get extremely expensive very quickly and don't really bring in a lot of revenue like a book or a movie can, bring in.
Yeah.
Because, they've sold God knows how many copies and packages of the Love movie, but they can't really do the same with music videos. They just go on, They just go on YouTube. To respond to you directly, I hope this is setting up a sequel. Let's just say that.
Maybe I was hoping the same, but I was like, oh, seems a little, I don't know, there might be something after this. I guess we'll see.
For sure. So I want to ask, did you pick up on any of the little throwbacks or what could be considered callbacks to past works, like the two moons in The Adventure, Tom running his hand through like that tall grass. We got a lot of shots of that. And then also the other thing I noticed, I think you might have mentioned this to me actually, was when Tom like runs and slides on his socks, down the hallway, and you get that shot through in like a T-shaped intersection, which is kind of like what we saw Lee Miller do in the Love movie when he was starting to lose his mind with isolation.
Yeah.
Did you kind of pick up on any of these very direct visual homages to past works?
Yeah, I saw on one of the pages online, someone had kind of broke it down. Where it's like kind of a travel through the past albums, and again, kind of ending with him being happy in himself and free, kind of insinuating that this album is that expression of his true self. I think that's very interesting. It's tough to tell if it's that or if it's just him being alone in quarantine, or a bit of both. I think you could say there probably are elements of both where it's not just a journey through his career, but the journey that we're all going through right now. Also, once all this started happening, it could also tie into kind of be more relatable to everyone watching it. But yeah, I did see a couple theories on that, and it does make sense when I watched it back. I was like, yeah, I could see that, because even kind of the color palettes change along with the different albums. So I think, can't believe it's that much of a coincidence in some of those scenes where, like you said, the the hand through the grass or the moons and all that. That's got to be intentional. So I can't imagine that would be a coincidence. But yeah, I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, but I did read someone's breakdown on it, and I thought, man, that seems pretty accurate to me. So yeah, but that's cool if that's the case, because I think it just goes back to, even more so the journey that he's gone through and how he feels about this upcoming record, which makes me even more excited for it.
Yeah, I think the passion is very palpable behind this whole era of Angels and Airwaves. I think I mentioned, I can't remember if it was on this podcast or another one, but this was like when Rebel Girl came out over a year ago in April of 2019. Just even before the music video, just seeing the band photos and the audio video visualizer and just hearing the song, it felt like an introduction into something completely new. Like, it didn't feel like any of the EPs, which I love, by the way. I love Chasing Shadows and Of Nightmares, and I think there's some just brilliant songs on those EPs, but I never felt like when they dropped, it's like, okay, you were about to be introduced into a whole world, a whole project that's going to span years and have an aesthetic. It's like when Rebel Girl came out, it was just like, oh, I see a new direction for the band, trying out new genres, the music being more elevated and sophisticated and having a better blend between the DeLonge and the Rubin sound. And so that's one of the things I've really enjoyed the most about these new songs that have come out and what I assume the record's going to be like. Getting back to the video, I forgot to mention just how much I loved the cinematography and the way it was cut together. It's different. Matt Thompson has directed the last two music videos, or most of the last two music videos. This is a different guy, and so it's like the visual voice is a lot different, but I don't know. I thought he captured that kind of like subtly handheld, honest documentary look with just like really great color grading and choosing the way to light the scenes or what environments to film in and how to digitally enhance some of the outdoor stuff. It just all hit on such a specific palette, as you've been mentioning, and it could have looked dull. It could have been fine. It could have just been mediocre DSLR footage, which is what honestly I thought it was going to be. But it's like this is top tier cinematography, and it just, the colors and everything just leaps off the screen. It's great. So where does this video rank for you among the new releases? Because I haven't talked to you yet about either Kiss and Tell or Rebel Girl, but if you had to kind of rank the last three videos that have come out to your personal preference, what would it be?
I think, that's a good question. I would still, it's hard to separate between the songs and the and the videos. I definitely like Kiss and Tell probably the most. I just thought that's the sound that I love, that kind of mix of a great pop song, but also some rock and roll and that kind of classic Angels and Airwaves sound. That was probably my favorite. And I would probably say this most recent one, All That's Left Is Love, comes behind that, followed by Rebel Girl. And Rebel Girl is a great song, and it's a hit for sure, and it plays amazing live. But the video on that was tough to wrap my head around. But it was good. I mean, it's like, I get what they're going for.
Right.
But yeah, it was kind of a different aspect that I'm used to. So, but yeah, I think I'll probably put it in that order.
Wow, I'm just the exact same order.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's actually maybe potentially a consensus amongst AVA fans at this point in terms of that ranking. But yeah, I mean, the Kiss and Tell video is brilliant, and I think it's possibly my favorite video the band has done, if not, solidly in the top three.
Right.
All That's Left Is Love is a pretty close second. Like, as you said, the song kind of can weigh into it. Mm-hmm. And I'll just say, like, All That's Left Is Love is my least favorite of the three new songs. Partially because I think Rebel Girl and Kiss and Tell are just solid 10s just right off the bat.
Yeah.
But also because, like, I think I've figured out I really just don't like the intro. Like, the first 45 seconds of All That's Left Is Love. Not only do I not like it, but I also think it's just weak in comparison to the rest of the song. Like, as soon as the instrumental hits, like, it's solid until the end of it. So overall, I feel like the song is one that maybe could have used a few more iterations. But still, even though that's my least favorite song, I totally put it as my second favorite music video. And nothing against Rebel Girl. Like, I really respect the Rebel Girl video for trying something different, but I think for the same reason that you and I resonated with All That's Left Is Love for fitting so perfectly with the song, the idea to kind of juxtapose the Rebel Girl video or Rebel Girl song with a bit of a different video and a radically different visual and narrative take than what we've seen in Angels Airwaves videos, it just didn't quite work for me personally. But I do respect that they tried it, and I like that they decided to not just make another video like Hallucinations or Anxiety. There's just a bunch of cool band shots. They tried something, that divested from the usual visuals we get from an Angels and Airwaves music video. So that does it for our discussion of the All That's Left Is Love music video. Be sure to send us your thoughts on the video, whether you respond in the YouTube comments or whether you send us a message on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, leave a comment somewhere. We want to hear back from you, and if you have any opinions on what we said, please go ahead and share them with us. Looking forward, we know that there will be an album soon, or album eventually. Tom said maybe a single or another music video in the fall. I assume the band's gonna just dive back into the studio work and kind of go underground for a little while, and because final tracking is probably going to take a few months, so they have a lot of work to do. So I'm not quite sure we're going to have another single release. Just want to temper everybody's expectations that this might be the last big AVA item for a few months, but I think it'll leave us satisfied for until whatever comes next.
Yeah, we got some other things coming up too. Unidentified's coming up.
Yeah.
If anyone's excited for that, and
I am.
So he's Tom's keeping busy, that's for sure. It's great that one thing we didn't mention was how all the proceeds of this video and song went to the Feeding Americas. So I mean,
yeah,
stuff like that is great to see. A band that kind of isn't just all talk, but actually actions to try and better their community. And so
and on the Feeding America note, all the proceeds from a song purchase on iTunes or whatever still 100% go to Feeding America. That's a charity that Tom has worked with for a long time and given to personally and advocated on his social media. So if you haven't purchased the song yet, if you want to go ahead and support that cause or just give directly to Feeding America, I personally have given to that charity several times. I think it does amazing work. It's kind of one of the biggest hunger relief efforts in America, and it's gotten some of the best ratings and reviews from independent auditors. It's scary now with a lot of people out of work and stuck at home. It's like resources can become scarce. So it's like the best way I think to show love is to sometimes, if we're in a position to, be able to give back a little bit. So for the second half of the podcast, we decided to do something a little bit different. Usually we keep the interviews and the podcast discussions separate for the most part. We have our own kind of interview series and interview episodes. For this episode, since we already have done a full podcast on the All That's Left Is Love song, we didn't want to do another whole podcast on the videos. So I got a chance a couple weeks ago to sit down with Angela Cutrone, who's a To The Stars employee. She's been with the company for several years now, and if anybody has been to the store in the past few years, there's a good chance you've met her. She does a lot at the company, but she also works at the retail store. And so we just sat down and talked about how she got into To The Stars and her journey with the company, getting to know Tom and the crew there, and working with Academy stuff as well, and how her personal journey has evolved over the course of being a part of the company. And, she's not exactly a director or a filmmaker or whatever, but she's such an integral part of what happens at To The Stars. We thought it'd be cool to just, go ahead and sit down with her and hear more of her story and hear from someone different for the podcast. So we're going to go ahead and roll that interview right now. So today I am sitting down with musician and To The Stars employee / team member Angela Cutrone. I think I got the name right. I hope I did. Who's super generous to come and hang out with us for a little bit and talk about the work you do at To The Stars.
I'm stoked to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, one of the reasons I thought it'd be great to have you on the show is the fact that I'm pretty sure a lot of people who listen to this podcast or who are part of the AVA movement have probably met you already, because you kind of, you work at the To the Stars store in Encinitas, so you're kind of like the face of the operation. I'm sure you have a lot of name recognition already because of that.
I love being in the shop. I meet so many people in the shop, so I probably have met a lot of you. I know we've had some AVA movement members that have come in, and I've given many high fives to. We had the book project that you guys did.
Oh yeah,
there
the
was
Fragments
like
and Fictions, that one?
No, not that one yet. The one that Melissa did. It was like a combination of all different fan photos from the tour. Yeah, it was like I don't know, but I know it was an AVA movement thing. But somebody dropped it off, and we were able to get that on Tom's desk, and he was very appreciative.
So I just love to start off by hearing a bit about your story and, how you got involved in the To the Stars sphere. Because, as we were talking about earlier before the call, you do a lot of things at the company. One of the things you do is you're at the store, so a lot of people will meet you there, but you do a whole slew of things. So I just want to start and hear how you got involved and how you got into this position to get in the Tom DeLonge To the Stars network and then became such a quintessential part of the team.
How did I enter Tom's crazy world?
Yeah, exactly.
So I actually started with Macbeth in 2015. Long story short, I'm a musician from Cleveland. I moved in 2012 from Cleveland to LA, did music school at LA Music Academy in Pasadena from spring of 2012 to fall of 2013. Then a gig after I graduated moved me down to San Diego. So I was making my living as a musician, just gigging and teaching. And I got to a point where I needed a day job, and a friend in the local music community got me into Macbeth. So I started at the retail shop in Encinitas, I guess early 2015. And I only had the job for maybe about a month before they were like, hey, the store's going to close. Like, we're really sorry, but we'll give you your last hours, kind of cleaning things out. I had already met everybody at TTS because while it hadn't launched yet, they were still at the office space. And Macbeth retail shop was actually in that same building. Those of you that have been there know it's like a multi-business building kind of that we're in. So Macbeth was on the other side of where the TTS retail store now is. So I had met everybody. I met Tom, I think, my second day because our warehouse manager at the time at TTS was training me at Macbeth. So I got out of my car one morning. Super funny story. Tom is super tall. He's like 6'5", 6'4", 6'5".
Right.
I am not. I'm like 5 foot, if that. So I got out of my car like my second day there, and Tom was talking to Luis, who was training me outside of Macbeth, and I came up and Luis introduced me, and he was like, hey, this is AC, she's our new employee over here. And Tom's like, hey, I'm Tom, what's your story? And he's like this huge, and like I knew who he was, but I did not grow up a Blink fan, so me entering Tom's world was a very interesting thing. But yeah, so I had met people at TTS, and I was at my last day at Macbeth. I was cleaning the place out, and Lisa, Tom's assistant, came over and was just kind of like, "Hey, what's your story? We need somebody in the shop. Like, we're getting ready to open up over there, and we need somebody in the shop on the weekends. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" Like, so they brought me over, and I've been there ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's been, I guess that's 5 years ago now. It feels hard to believe.
5 years ago.
That To the Stars.
It feels super hard.
Because I think the store opened like summer 2015-ish. Like
we opened Comic-Con weekend of 2015.
Right. Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That was crazy.
Half a decade. Okay.
Yeah. So I started 2 days a week, and just in the shop, and then just we're a tight knit team that helps each other out. So I just kept saying yes to things that needed to happen and be done. And we all work very good cohesively together. So responsibilities just increased. And, 5 years later, I'm full time and have a career. And Tom actually had sat me down and talked to me about that. Another sidetrack story. In 2016, I got a chance to go on one of my first tours, like van tours, with a band out of LA called Good Grafe that I was super into and super excited about doing. But I had just gotten the job at TTS, And if you're a musician that works retail, you know that like when you're gone for a long period of time, like you probably don't have a job when you come back from tour. So I asked Tom and Carrie, I'm like, hey, I have this opportunity like to go on this tour and I'm really nervous because I really like this job. And they're like, oh, awesome. Go for it. So I'm like, oh, but I still have a job when I get back. They're like, of course. So I got to tour for a month and a half and then come back and have a job. And then shortly after that, Tom was in the office one day and he came out and kind of sat me down and he's like, hey, like, I really like you. You do an awesome job here. You're a great part of the team. Like, what do you want out of your life? Like, what are your ultimate goals? But it was in a very Tom way. What are your goals? Like, what are your dreams? And I'm like, I want to be a touring musician. He's like, do you? And I'm like, after getting off this tour and sleeping on weird people's floors and, like cat pee carpets, like maybe what I thought I wanted my whole life is not actually what I want, and I was growing with the company like pretty quickly at that point and I didn't want to give it up. So, and he's like, I really want to give you a career. Like, it may take a while, but I hope you stick with this. And like, he's just the best, man. He's a loyal boss and we're all loyal employees.
Yeah, it seems like there's a real community around just the people who work there because it's a small group of people. I think like maybe with the academy now it's gotten a little bigger, but for the most part it's like 10, 20 people, I guess, and they all seem to like just personality wise really meld well. Like I've just just from talking to some of the people, like interviewing like Matt Thompson or Aaron Rubin and just meeting some of the people. I went to the store like I think last year. It wasn't you who was there; it was the other person who works.
Matt,
store.
You probably met Matt.
Yeah, I think it was him. It just seems like everyone has this like, very uplifting, productive, synergistic energy. And it's like a very distinctly curated set of personalities. And I feel like that seems very intentional on, Tom or Carrie's behalf.
I would think so. A lot of the people that Tom works with have been with him forever.
Right.
So like it truly is a community, that and he builds his communities well.
So as things progressed, as the Stars store opened, and as Tom got more and more into developing these big properties like Poet Anderson, Secret Machines, Strange Times, and then leading up to I guess the launch of the Academy of Arts and Science in fall of 2017, I believe it was. How did your role in the company evolve? Were there any like mile markers, or was it just as things booted up, you were just kind of given more responsibilities?
Yes, and
oh, okay.
all of the above. So, I mean, I just started, doing different stuff. Like I do anything, like you'll catch me packing orders in the warehouse, which I really super enjoy. I do a lot of our online customer service stuff. So I started doing some of that early on, where I would help out our e-com side and, answer customer service emails. And that way I started learning more about the shipping and the tracking and just stuff that you need to know in that world. Some social media stuff, I got a little more responsibility there. And then when the Academy launched, I started getting a lot of responsibility on the Academy side, which I really enjoy. And I love all those guys. And I love everything that I do with the company. It's not just one, it keeps it exciting,
That's
to
awesome.
just be doing different things. I like to say, like, I just say yes. If I don't know something, I'll learn it. And if you need help, I'll help you, and everybody there is kind of that way. So it just works.
So I'm actually really interested to hear a bit about the Academy side of things in terms of like, is that just like in the office with you? Because in my mind, they're in some like top secret bunker or something, like planning the next informational revolution. So it's like, I'm just curious because you've done some work with them, and obviously, if you can't disclose any of that, that's fine. But is it mostly just like Lou and Chris Mellon and those people, and do they work out of the office, or is there a lot of kind of like flexibility between Academy employees and entertainment, division employees?
I would like to say that, Inc., the entertainment side is all basically run out of the office. I mean, but
right.
Some people are remote. I don't know. It's hard. The Academy is definitely a global thing. So those guys are everywhere. So they're not technically really in the office, but it is fun when, they're out of their secret bunkers and and we get to see some of them. Steve Justice is one of my favorite people in the world. I have to state that publicly. He's such a wonderful human being and a great leader. He has some great leadership podcasts out there, I think, that he's done, and like talks from doing stuff at Skunkworks. So yeah, I highly recommend that.
So speaking of Tom, I'm very curious because I feel like a lot of, the AVA Movement fans, or even people who follow the To the Stars Academy, still mostly know Tom from his, music persona, from Angels Airwaves, from Boxcar Racer, from Blink-182. When you came into the company, that was when Tom was on a pretty long hiatus from touring. So that was, like between 2014 with his last Blink shows till I guess now end of 2019 when he finally got on the stage again. So it's like, while most of us know his stage persona and his music and that side, I feel like your introduction to him and the relationship you built with him was entirely around a sort of like business and office culture. So I have to ask, what's it like having him as like the CEO or the office boss? What's that dynamic like?
Tom is exactly how you picture him to be.
Okay.
He's super funny. Like he is that Tom that everybody knows and loves.
Yeah.
From Blink and from, like you saw his stage banter on this last tour go from 0 to 15 minutes throughout the course of the tour, during his medley. And that's still him. Like once he gets more comfortable, like he's that sincere, but he's also just a really smart businessman. And he's a good boss. Like he's just he's smart and he's good at what he does. And he runs on passion. He's a super creative guy, super smart guy, really well read. And like also just a kick-ass musician. Like this tour was the first time I got to see him on stage, which was super cool. I did not, like I said, I did not grow up a Blink fan. I didn't know Angels and Airwaves music. So I came into Tom's world just fresh, just not knowing anything really about him. Like I remember Blink from growing up. I was not really a fan. I liked the boy bands and they made fun of the boy bands.
Right.
So
Like all the Small Things music video probably was really offensive to you at the time.
I did not like them. I'm like, who are these guys that are making fun of the Backstreet Boys who I love? Yeah. So, but obviously I always thought Travis was a super great drummer. So, but Tom is the best boss and he's a really great guy. So, but yeah, it's been fun to see him on stage. Like, cause we do know him from kind of around the office and being, just being Tom basically. And then when I saw some of the tour shows and saw him on stage for the first time, it's like you take a step back. I think I was we were at the San Diego show and I turned to our graphic designer and I were just watching him. I'm like, our boss is a fucking rock star. Like how, like we were, and I think she had actually seen Blink like way, way, way back in the day. So, but yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see him on stage.
So now that you kind of discovered the whole discography, just whether it's Blink or Boxcar, his solo work, Angels, whatever, what's kind of like your favorite picks from his catalog of music in terms of albums or songs, say?
I'm a huge Angels and Airwaves fan now. So once I got the job at TTS, I started listening to Angels. The very first song I heard was Diary, which is a really weird first AVA song to hear, but it captivated me. And I just remember driving. I was picking up my sister from the airport and I just remember driving and being in a trance almost, and just being like, whoa, like what is this? And then when it kicks in and the words kick in, it's a great song. So like Stomping the Phantom Brake Pedal was the first album that I heard. And then I might've went to Love after that. I don't know. I don't think I went in order.
Okay.
But I love all of it. I think my favorite album is Dreamwalker. I really like the new stuff that they're doing too, like Rebel Girl and Kiss and Tell. Kiss and Tell, I think, is one of my favorite songs of just all time now.
Really? Yeah, me too. I listen to it like every day still. It's so good.
It's so good. It's so good. And I love Ilan. Like just hearing Ilan's drums. I think that's why I gravitate towards Dreamwalker. It's because it's so different. And I'm a big 80s like new wave fan. And Dreamwalker has kind of an 80s new wave vibe. And Tunnels, I think, is one of the best songs ever written, like musically, lyrically, dynamically. And I lost my dad suddenly and kind of recently in 2016 it happened. And
Sorry to hear that.
you know, thank you, man. And I know Tom has said that, you know, that song he kind of wrote around his dad's passing.
Yeah.
So it's you know, and I've gotten to have conversations with him about that, and and just tell him, like, dude, like, this song, you know, and I know that it means a lot to a lot of different people for many different reasons, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that has, you know, that kind of story surrounding that song. So, but yeah, I think Dreamwalker. I don't know a lot of Blink still, but I love Neighborhoods, which is probably a very unpopular opinion in this community. So I'm sorry.
It's becoming more popular though. It's like, you know, you like me were able to listen to that album, you know, with fresh ears. Cause like I actually listened to Neighborhoods like right as it came out. That was my big introduction to Blink, besides like all the small things.
Oh, no way.
So it's like, yeah. And it's like, you know, if you were to come in when Dreamwalker was coming out, it's like, you're not married to that like hi-fi space rock, you know, like really like happy rock sound. Cause like Dreamwalker's weird. Like
Dreamwalker is weird.
It's a weird diversified album. It you know, it's like Eye Empire and the other stuff really flow together. Dreamwalker is very like, each song is its own little art piece. So it's great to meet someone who loves, you know, both Dreamwalker and Neighborhoods as much as I do.
I love it. And Dogs Eating Dogs, I think that's really great.
Yeah.
I also didn't have an entire childhood attachment.
Right.
You know, so like when you had like my favorite band, also probably not a popular opinion. My favorite band is Hanson. Like, I don't know if you know who they are. I don't know if AVA Movement people know who they are. I'm sure I got some other Hanson fans out there in the AVA movement. So hit me up if you're a Hanson fan. But like, they've been my favorite band since I was 13. So, and I am a fan like through and through. So that's part of why I understand, you know, and why I love Tom's fans, because the fans that come into the shop are fans through and through, you know, like most of them that I met. Some people are just curious, you know, whatever. Like, we get people from all over the board in there. But, you know, when you have a childhood attachment, or, you know, a teenage attachment, or whatever, like just a long attachment to a band, inevitably, if that band changes drastically, like you're gonna split people. So half people are going to be on board. Some people are not going to be on board. I've had bands that musicians that I've liked that have, you know, put out music, like recent music, that I'm like, all right, not really my favorite.
Sure.
But with Tom, with Angels, I had the luxury of getting the entire discography all at once. So I kind of got to pick and choose, and I love different things from different albums. You know, I think all the albums are great.
Yeah, well, because now the band's at the point where it's like there is no mandate. It's just kind of open to explore whatever musicianship comes out of the songwriting. Whereas, like, I feel like from, you know, We Don't Need a Whisper through to Love Part 2, it was very much trying to cultivate a specific identity. You know, for me at least, maybe you as well, it's the diversification of the music that I find really exciting. The fact that, like, I don't know what's coming next. I never do.
Yeah, well, I mean, as is the case in all of Tom's world. You know,
yeah, oh my gosh,
what is coming next from Tom? Who knows?
Do you guys get whiplash at all? Does he ever like walk in the office and be like, we're doing this today, I have this new idea? Is that kind of,
yes,
you know,
100%.
Okay, all right, yeah,
100%. He like I said, he runs on passion, man. He's a creative individual, and like he's got ideas. He's got many ideas, and like some of them, you know, just with anybody, you know, some of them work, some of them might not, but you never know until it actually happens. But yeah, going back to like, you know, music being tied with the properties, I think that is a super cool way of doing things. And that also, like when Tom says he wants AVA to be, you know, that it's not just a band.
Sure. It's like an art project.
You know, it's an art project. So like, I think I love, like, Of Nightmares is kind of out of left field, I feel. And I really like it. Like, I like some of the weird electronic aspects of it.
It's very moody.
Chasing
it's very
Shadows,
dark.
it's super moody. But Poet is super moody.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a moody project. And a moody dreamscape, I guess. But Chasing Shadows is like on the opposite end of the spectrum. I've had a lot of fans tell me that Chasing Shadows reminds them of I Empire in, you know, like just the intensity and energy behind it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like I feel like it's very, you know, it's a spiritual sibling to I Empire, but it's also very much leaning toward the punk rock sonics from like, you know, 10 or 15 years ago. Like Enema of the State meets I Empire, and it's like you know, that blew me away because the band, like you said, felt like it was going in a really like new wave, lo-fi, synth, moody, atmospheric direction. You know, there are plenty of the rock elements of the band that were still in Dreamwalker or whatever, but it was like I kind of thought I saw a trend developing between Dreamwalker and Of Nightmares, and then Chasing Shadow was like getting lassoed and then yanked in another direction. I was like, oh, this is awesome. It's like completely didn't expect it, and it's like it's still some of my favorite like guitar driven stuff, like rock driven stuff that he's done in a long time.
I'm excited to hear the news. He's so excited about the new stuff.
Yeah. Have you gotten a sneak peek of any of the new stuff, or is like
no? I know as much as you guys.
Okay.
Do. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've heard obviously the singles that have come out, and like All That's Left Is Love. I'm stoked on that one. I haven't listened to that one as much.
So like Kiss and Tell is your favorite of the new three?
And Rebel Girl. I don't know. Rebel Girl was so good live.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
There's just something about that like that synthy beginning. It's kind of a tie. There's I don't know. It's hard to pick. It's like picking a favorite child.
Yeah.
Picking a favorite dog.
So now that we've talked a bit about the music, I'm really curious to hear what, you know, what's your favorite, you know, like property or novel that you guys have done, because, you know, the music might be the most visible because of Tom's, you know, rock star profile, but it's like you guys, To the Stars in the last 5 or 6 years has put out a lot of narrative entertainment, whether it be short films, you know, animations or books. There's been so much in that sphere. So I'm just wondering, is one of the franchises, is one franchise your favorite, or one book? Like, has anything stuck out to you as been like one of your favorite that the company has put out of its, you know, big assembly of art right now?
I'm a big fan of The Lonely Astronaut.
Okay.
Like I love the story. I've been pushing to get we have an I love hugs that we had it on like a lunchbox and like a onesie and stuff. I've been pushing to get that as an adult t-shirt for a very long time. Cause I just think it's such a cute story. So I love Lonely Astronaut. But as far as the other properties, Secret Machines, I think is my favorite, just because I'm really into the subject matter.
Right.
I've been into weird stuff my entire life. I've had like some paranormal experiences, and I'm, you know, being from Cleveland and close to the lake, like, you know, weird UAP stuff in the sky that I can't explain. I've always been into that subject matter. I'm an eternal seeker of, you know, consciousness, all things strange and weird, and just, you know, I love it. So, and I had no idea Tom was into any of that kind of stuff until I got into this world. So with Secret Machines, what's cool about that property is a lot of it, you know, I kind of knew, but a lot of it I didn't know. So until I read Chasing Shadows, I didn't know the history behind Operation Paperclip, or a lot of these other kind of little segue segments that are in the book. You know, they talk about like Operation High Jump, Betty and Barney Hill, the first quote unquote like abductee case. But Operation Paperclip was interesting. I didn't know a lot about the Nazi Germany connection. So it was cool reading the book and then like going to my computer and Googling at the same time.
Right.
So you're learning actual history, and like, you know, you're learning true things, but told in this. And I think AJ Hartley is one of the most brilliant writers of all time.
He's so good. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
He's so good. His way of writing, like reading the Secret Machines books, I'm picturing a movie in my head. And for those of you, I don't know, have you read any of the Cathedrals series?
I haven't yet. No, I really need to.
So Planet of Blood and Ice, I haven't read Valkyries yet. It's on my list. But Planet of Blood and Ice is kind of the same way. So you're reading through it and it's like you just see this concept art and like this vision in your head. And it's the same with Secret Machines. And the nonfiction books, the way that Peter Levenda, I'm super into him. Like, just you can go through a Peter Levenda rabbit hole on YouTube with interviews and just have your mind blown on all of this stuff. And it's cool because people that have never been into the subject are now curious about the subject
Oh,
because of the
yeah.
Navy videos, because of these properties. And it's not tinfoil hat stuff. It's like actual, there's so much that's unknown in our world, and to be part of something, that is exploring these different, like getting people excited about different unknown possibilities and stuff like that is a really exciting, like I'm forever learning. So yeah, so Secret Machines, Poet is cool because, lucid dreaming is an interesting thing. Dreaming in general is an interesting thing. Cause it's like, where do we go when we dream?
Yeah.
What are dreams? Are you going to the astral plane? Are you, is it just a weird thing that your brain is doing to process, the day's like subconscious things? What's cool about Poet, and I didn't know until I started working for Tom, he actually, I can't remember what interview this is in, but how he came up with the Poet concept. He was watching one of those Nova specials on dreaming and nightmares and how, it's preparing you for waking life or something.
Yeah, it's like preparing you for like what you might have, the dangers you might have to face. It's like a simulation or something to like prep you for perceived danger.
Totally. So, you can get into all sorts of weird stuff. One of my friends does lucid dreaming journaling.
Yeah.
And she'll send me, certain things and tell me about stuff, and she will like go to the same places.
Oh, wow.
And I've heard people doing that on the astral plane too. And then how is it all connected? If there's one thing like that I think about, it's that all of this stuff could be connected, like I'm really into paranormal stuff. But it's like, you can look at Bigfoot or UFOs or,
which Tom has looked at Bigfoot. He's looked for Bigfoot before.
or like cryptids or, all of these different things. And I feel like it could all be part of one. That's why they call it the phenomenon. It's
Sure.
like could be part of one thing. But again, who knows? And then you look at like weird hallucinogenic drugs, like people that do DMT will often see the same entities. So is that a collective consciousness thing? Religious experiences, like it's all sorts of weird things that can happen.
You must feel so at home being it to the stars because of this. Cause this is like,
right?
This is absolutely 100% their forte. I mean, it must feel like you've finally found your calling just in terms of like what the company does creatively. It just seems like so up your alley. All the interests you just mentioned are like kind of like all of the properties at once.
Right. And that's why it's so fun being in the shop and interacting with people, because I get to have some of the most interesting, weird conversations in that place. Like over the last 5 years, I've had people that have come in that are just like, what's this weird place with a rocket? And, I'll kind of tell them about the different properties and kind of what we're doing in the entertainment field, the kind of stuff that's coming out. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, I had this weird thing happen to me. And I'll get into a, hour-long conversation with somebody about just some of the weirdest stuff.
Wow.
It's super fun.
Are there any like specific stories or interesting things you've heard from people, or just like, now that we're on the topic of the store, any of your favorite interactions from, working in that store and meeting fans?
I love the ones that come in and are emotional. I've had criers.
Aww.
I've had people come in and have cried. I know it's very cute.
That's so sweet.
And I get it. Like I am a fan above all. So, whenever people come in, they're like, I'm so sorry. No, like this is a safe place. Like I always tell people like, this is a safe place to geek out, to, all opinions are welcome. I know there's so many people on different sides of the Blink thing or,
oh, for sure.
Boxcar, even AVA, like, it's a safe place for all opinions, like, and all just come in, you're welcome, I met actually one of my best friends in the shop. So, I'm a proud Ohioan again. And, I was in the shop, over a Labor Day weekend some years ago and got a 330 area code come through on the phone. I'm calling to ask if we were open on Labor Day. So I'm like, yeah. And then I was like, hey, where are you from in Ohio? And just instant friends. So my friend Jenna, she came in the next day and was one of the first people that came in and was like emotional. She'll hate me for telling this story, but like she was my first crier that I had in there. So,
oh my gosh. Did she inspire you to now have like a tissue box on the desk or whatever?
We should have a tissue box. No, but it was like an instant hug. It was me coming around the corner being like, oh my gosh, like, welcome. But she was super cool. So then we became like online friends, and then just became like, you know, she's definitely one of my best friends in the world. And I've met so many people like that I am in contact with all the time, you know, whether it's through Instagram or just, you know, my favorite regulars that come in the shop. And yeah, I so many good people in this community. And it was fun. What was fun about tour too, is I got to hit a bunch of the tour shows and to see all these people that I've, you know, had seen in and out of the shop for years and have gotten to know, and to get to see them finally being at a show again.
Yeah.
Because one of the first questions that I would always have, like you said before, you were mentioning how Tom was on a long touring hiatus. So one of the main questions, you know, we get in the shop, Matt and I, is like, is Tom here? Where's Tom? It's very hard to catch Tom in there. But the second question is like, when is he touring again? Are we ever going to see him on stage again? So when that actually happened, and like getting to go to these shows and seeing just my favorite part was looking down at the crowd during the adventure when it started. I have such great videos from the adventure because it's just so powerful. Heaven was another moment like that. Like when they would close with Heaven and his, you know, the speech that he would give, like he means all of that. You know, it was super powerful. So yeah, so all the people that I met in the shop that's one of my favorite things. I forgot what the actual first question was, but
that's a pretty beautiful summation of everything I was interested in terms of that.
Great.
So I guess last question, you know, where can people find you on social media? Are you there? Are you on Instagram, Twitter, or anything? Where can people find you?
I'm there. I'm pretty accessible. I'm not super accessible through Facebook because I use Facebook for like friends and family back home in Ohio. But I am in the AVA Movement group. So I don't know, tag me on there or whatever. But if you friend request me on Facebook and I don't respond, it's because I really only like people that I know personally. I do the Facebook thing. But I'm not on Facebook a whole lot. Instagram is probably the best place. I am at drummer AC22. I am on Twitter also under the same name, drummer AC22, but I don't use Twitter a whole lot. It's still a little bit confusing and overwhelming.
Especially recently, right?
Especially recently. And I'll get better. But yeah, I'm super accessible on Instagram. You know, shoot me a message, give a follow, do whatever. And then I have like some music stuff up from different bands that I've been in. I don't even remember my website address. I think it's just drummerac.squarespace.com.
Okay, cool.
So you can see videos of, you know, bands and whatnot, and yeah, that kind of stuff.
Well, I guess will people also still find you at the store if they go to visit? Are you still working some days at the store?
You will find me at the store. You will mostly find Matt, who's incredible. Shout out to Matt. He's the best. I am in the store right now on Saturdays. For the foreseeable future, we are closed on Sundays and Mondays. That might change. All of this COVID stuff is, you know, affecting how things are opening and people, you know, coming back in. Like, you know, it's a weird thing. Interacting with people through masks is a very strange thing. Like I had, you know, because we're having fans come in again. And like yesterday was super weird. It's like I don't feel like I can be.
You posted that hilarious picture. You guys have like the absolute best PSA for masks and gloves ever. Like,
the best.
I don't think anyone's gonna beat you. I literally can't see any store having a better sign.
I don't either.
We'll have to post it again on Twitter or so. You guys should post on the official account so we can see it.
We should. I do see random people coming up to our door and taking pictures of it and walking away. So I don't know whose idea that was in the office, but it was genius. And Tom taught us well. Like he's trained us well. Yeah. So for those of you who haven't seen, we have like our signs are boomer with a mask on, and then the enema
of the state
glove. Yeah. It's but yeah, I don't know. So things are weird, but yeah, you can still catch me in the shop. And if you want to say hi to me on any other day that you come into the shop, just ask Matt. I'm usually back in the office or in the warehouse or whatever. I'm always around. You'll catch me around.
Well, thank you so much for doing this and taking some time to just talk about the stuff you're doing in your own personal journey. It's truly a pleasure to get to talk with people who work with the company and are a part of this, collective of artists, because it's very special, and it's cool to see that it's special for you guys, because I can say it's definitely special for us fans.
Dude, thank you. Like it's been, I agree. I'm grateful to be part of it, and and the fans are special. If we didn't have the community that Tom has around him, like folks in the AVA movement, just his fans in general, like we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So we love all the fans, and we're grateful to be the face of Tom while he's locked in a studio trying to get this album out.
It sounds great. Soon, very soon.
But yeah, thank you. It has been super awesome, and I look forward to, chatting with you again.
Awesome. We'll talk to you later then.
Sounds good, man.
So thank you again to Angela for sitting down with the podcast to talk a little bit about her work. Super cool to hear, her perspective and someone who's an artist and a musician, but is able to keep that alive, but also work at this company, which is really at its core a collection of artists and business people who are just trying to come together to make something cool and follow all these great creative ideas wherever they lead, and be able to do it as an independent company, not have to be tied to any big studio or something. It's just a small group of artists and people in San Diego or Encinitas, and I love it.
Yeah, I actually got a chance to meet AC when I was out there. So
cool.
It's been a couple years now, I guess. Yeah. So, and she's pretty active on the Facebook group as well, and kind of helps out here and there. And
on the To the Star, your Facebook group, you mean the To the Stars group? Oh,
yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So, super cool. I know she's a great drummer too, and likes to play the drums. And yeah, I think we've even mentioned this, Adam. It's like I've had so many people say that when they go to the store, they just feel like they could just hang out there for hours. Like I know I kind of had the same feeling. It's like it's not a big place, but you don't really want to leave. You just kind of want to hang out in the vibe for a while. And I think that goes from the stuff from the music to the merch, and definitely the employees too. Make it feel very welcoming, and just come and hang if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to, I guess she's the third person I've interviewed officially from the To the Stars orbit, and the other two being Matt Thompson and Aaron Rubin. Just independently talking to all these individual people, I just get the same vibe from them. Just very open, very personable, very creatively talented and smart, but never overbearing or insecure about it. And it's like I think Tom serves as such an inspiration for me personally, in the sense that, like, if you put out a vibe, or if you want to have a certain community, you have to go out and create that. You have to find that. You have to put out a signal into the universe, and all of a sudden you'll see people around you who kind of reflect that signal back. And it's like, it's a kind of creative philosophy that a lot of artists don't use, actually kind of just finding soul brothers and sisters, or soul individuals. And it's like, that's so valuable. And, it's I think hard for all of us to reach out and find that. But not only has Tom found that, but he's created a company around that. I just think that's so awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the AVA Movement podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and if you want to hear more podcast episodes or AVA Movement interviews, you can check us out at the AVA Movement on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And you can also find the podcast specifically on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. In the meantime, my name is Adam Barnard.
I'm Joe Thueson.
And we'll see you next time.